Some places don't just feel haunted, they remember. The walls carry grief, the floorboards echo with pain. And if you stay long enough, you don't leave unchanged. Tonight's story isn't about bumps in the night. It's about what pain leaves behind, what grief feeds, what darkness learns to wear your name. It's personal and it's real. I'm Andy, and this is Paranormal Nightshift, where your headlights might light the road ahead, but we're more interested in what's standing behind you. Each week, we dive into chilling stories sent in by listeners just like you. Stories too raw, too intimate, too true to be ignored. Before we step into tonight's shadows, a quick heads up. If you want even more stories too intense for the podcast, ones I only send to email subscribers, you can grab those at paranormalnightshift.com. Signing up also gets you a free copy of the first ebook in our time-bending horror series, Dimensional Desperado. And heads up for those already riding the haunted trail with us. Book 2 is coming, and email subscribers and Patreon members will be the first to peek behind the veil. Now, let's dim the lights. Tonight's story, What Lingers in the Dark, comes from a listener named Lexi. It's a story of siblings, silence, and something in the house that wasn't just watching. It was waiting. I've had my fair share of paranormal experiences throughout my life. Some have been subtle, small signs, residual energy, the comforting presence of loved ones who've passed. Others have been much harder to live through, terrifying, overwhelming, and impossible to explain away with logic. But there's one stretch of time that I return to in my mind more often than I'd like, because it wasn't just paranormal, it was personal. It involved my brother Andrew, and it left a mark on both of us that I've only come to understand years later. After my parents divorced, Andrew and I lived mostly with our mom. Our other siblings stayed with our dad more full-time, but Andrew, being 11 years older than me, was almost like a second adult in the house. He was in his late teens then, 19 or 20. I was still fairly young, too young to see the full picture of everything that was happening. Too young to grasp the weight he carried. Andrew had been struggling with substance use since before we moved into the house, but something changed when we got there. At the time, I thought it was just life, just growing up, but looking back, I can say with absolute certainty that something in that house fed the worst in him, and something in that house had its eye on both of us. The house itself felt wrong from the moment we stepped through the front door. It wasn't anything you could put your finger on. It was dark, not just poorly lit, but somehow darker than it should have been, even with the lights on. It was the kind of place where shadows seemed to gather in the corners long after they should have faded. Every room felt like it was holding its breath. Andrew's bedroom was in the basement. It was a small room with dark wood-paneled walls and no windows, completely sealed from the outside world. Even in the daytime, it was pitch black without a lamp. That room always made me uneasy. It wasn't just the darkness, it was the feeling, the kind that sticks to your skin like a film. The basement as a whole was awful. I avoided it at all costs. The one time I stayed down there too long, playing a video game in the family room area, I felt a sharp, undeniable tug on my hair. I was completely alone. I never went down there again without Andrew or my mom. After a few months in the house, things got worse. That's when the breathing started. Almost every night, just as I'd start to drift off, I'd hear it right next to my ear. A deep, heavy inhale, a pause, and then a slow exhale, like someone was inches from my face, watching me sleep. It was so close I could feel the weight of it, like it was pressing into the pillow beside me. I'd freeze. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even roll over. It was like my body was under lock and key. This happened night after night, and yet I never told anyone. I can't say why exactly. Maybe it was fear of not being believed. Maybe it was because my mom wasn't easy to talk to back then. Maybe part of me thought that saying it out loud would make it worse, but I kept quiet. I endured it in silence, even as the fear hollowed out my insides. It wasn't just the breathing either. Sometimes, late at night, when the house was utterly still, I'd hear footsteps. Slow, heavy steps. They'd start just outside my bedroom door, move down the hall, through the dining room, into the kitchen, and always down the stairs, into the basement. Then, silence. And that's what chilled me the most. Not the sound of someone walking, but the absolute nothing that followed. We didn't live there for very long, thank God. A better situation opened up and we moved. I never spoke about what I experienced, not to my mom, not to Andrew. And even though I knew something awful had lingered in that house, I buried the memories deep down and tried to forget. But trauma doesn't stay buried forever. In 2009, my brother passed away, an unexpected overdose. It shattered my world. Our dad had died of cancer only 2 years earlier. Losing Andrew felt like losing the last anchor I had to the version of my family that once was. And I never got to ask him. Never got to know if he'd felt the things I did in that house. I figured I'd never would. Until last year, Andrew had been dating a girl back when we lived in that house. Years had passed and we'd gone our separate ways, but recently, we reconnected. She lives out of state now, but while traveling through, she stopped to visit and we finally got to talk. Not as kids connected through Andrew, but as adults grieving the same loss. We reminisced, we laughed, we cried, and then she asked a question that made my blood run cold. Do you remember living at the haunted house? I paused. What house? I asked. Though I already knew, she described it perfectly. Same house, same layout, same dark energy. I said yes and let her speak. She told me that Andrew had become unrecognizable while living there, that his drug use had worsened drastically, that for the first time in their relationship, she was afraid of him. She said he would get this look in his eyes like he wasn't all there. And then she said something that shook me to my core. He used to say something was breathing in his ear at night, that it wouldn't stop. I broke down sobbing. She went on hesitantly to say that he also heard footsteps, heavy ones, always leading to the basement, just like I had, and then the part I still can't fully process. She said Andrew saw faces in the walls. Faces that would speak to him, try to convince him to do terrible things, that he felt watched constantly, that he believed something was trying to claim him. I asked her to stop. I couldn't take any more. There's a part of me that believes Andrew was more vulnerable because of his addiction, that the darkness of that house latched onto him because he was easier to influence. But there's another part of me that wonders if he shielded me from the worst of it, if he bore the brunt of its torment to keep me safe. That's the part that hurts the most. But my story doesn't end in fear. The night after Andrew passed, I had a dream, or maybe something more than that. I don't know what to call it. I was lying in bed just like always. Everything around me looked exactly as it did in the waking world. And then he appeared. My brother. He looked like himself again, clear-eyed, calm. He told me he loved me, that he was sorry, that he didn't mean to die. He kissed my forehead, and when I woke up, I was crying, not from fear, but from love. I believe Andrew came to say goodbye, to let me know that wherever he was now, he wasn't in pain anymore, and that, despite everything that house had tried to do to us, it didn't win. I still have nightmares sometimes. I still hear those heavy footsteps in my memory, but I also carry that final moment with Andrew, that kiss on the forehead, that apology, and I hold on to it like a lantern in the dark, Because even when the shadows whisper and the walls seem to breathe, love still finds a way to break through. Lexi's story is more than just a paranormal encounter. It's a mirror, a reminder that some hauntings don't happen to us. They happen through us, through memory, through love, through loss, and the places we live. Sometimes they don't just witness our grief. They feed on it. If this story stayed with you tonight, if it stirred something in your gut, or whispered to something you thought was long buried, know this: you're not alone. These stories connect us, and sometimes just speaking them brings a kind of peace. Thank you for stepping into the dark with me tonight. If you want more stories like this, ones too raw or eerie for the podcast, make sure you're signed up at paranormalnightshift.com. That's where I share exclusive stories straight to your inbox, and where you can grab your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado. Trust me, you're going to want to be on that list when Book 2 starts to stir. And hey, if you want to support the show, join us on Patreon. You'll get ad-free episodes, early access, and those deeper journeys into the unknown I don't release anywhere else. But whether you listen in, read along, or just quietly carry these stories with you, I'm grateful you're here. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and if the breathing starts beside you in the dark, just know we've heard it too. Have a good night.